Contact us to avail the combo offer of General Studies and Public Administration optional with 20% discount.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, good morning. Today we are going to have the Hindu analysis of 9th September 2021. Let us see which are the important articles from today's The Hindu newspaper. Yes, most of the relevant articles for our mains examination. Some of them are related to prelims examination. Simultaneously, what we will do is, even from those mains related articles, we have to take input for prelims examination also. Yes, first of all, let us take overview of all these articles, wherein we will understand the context of these articles and which part of the syllabus they are relevant to. Okay, and then we will discuss them one by one in detail. So, first of all, mains related developments. On page number 6, editorial page, there are two important articles. First, green hydrogen, a new ally for a zero carbon future. Now, this is the new topic. Already this is in news. Green hydrogen, how this green hydrogen is very important clean source of energy, and it can act as an alternate source of energy for fossil fuels, as we are looking forward to reduce the dependence on fossil fuels and meet the Paris Agreement commitments. Okay, so this particular article explains what is green hydrogen, then need of having this green hydrogen as an alternative source of energy, at the same time the challenges involved in it and the way forward it is mentioning. Okay, or we can say that the initiatives at the international stage and in India at present. Then this is important from GS3 paper environment section. Okay, then next article, reopening of schools and safety measures. There is one editorial, again it is talking about, let's say 1 week has been completed about the reopening of some of the schools in certain states, especially we can say 9, 10th, 11th, 12th standard classes have resumed. So it is talking about the impact of 1 week of reopening of schools, whether there are any concerns regarding increase in transmission of cases or infections. At the same time, the safety measures which are required to sustain these reopened schools in a physical manner, or we can say that the schooling in the physical manner, right. So this is important, GS2 paper governance part and HRD, human resource development, where education is important part of GS2 paper. Then India, Russia review Afghanistan situation. Okay, so there is visit of one of the, let's say, or we can say defense secretary of Russia to India, and there was talks between the NSA of India and between the defense secretary of Russia regarding various bilateral cooperations, and the focus was largely on the Afghanistan situation. Okay, so this is as a follow up to bilateral relations between India and Russia as well as Afghanistan peace process. So this is IR section, GS2 paper, international relations. We will have follow up here. Then again one of the follow up for international relations, India Australia bilateral relations. So in near future we are going to have first or inaugural 2+2 meeting between India and Australia. Okay, and which areas there will be talks between these foreign ministers and defense ministers. So as a follow up to IR section, again bilateral relations between India and Australia. Then Supreme Court says that railways have to compensate for late running trains. So this is unique case actually. Up till now we have seen how Indian Railways have been from time to time largely delayed. The trains reach at the destination at the delayed time, and now there has been let's say one of the order by the Supreme Court in one of the case which talks about how it impacts on the travelers or creates the inconvenience to travelers. Okay, and therefore they need to be compensated. We will look into what was this particular case here and what Supreme Court is talking about here. Now this is important from governance aspect. Okay, so in governance you can talk about the public sector undertakings, they need to work in an efficient manner, otherwise they will not be able to compete with the private sector. So we can give that example here. Now specifically prelims related developments amid protests, farmer protest here they are talking, center hikes MSP for rabi crops, minimum support price. So what is this MSP, and on the recommendation of which body this MSP is decided by the government and announced, when it is announced, on how many number of crops this is announced, all these aspects we have to understand for prelims examination, agriculture sector, economy part, right. And finally practice prelims MCQs on today's current affairs. So first article, green hydrogen, a new ally for zero carbon future. Now this is important from GS3 paper, environment section as well as science and technology section. Why? Because this green hydrogen, what do you mean by green hydrogen, as a part of science also, this can be asked in prelims examination also. Okay, so what is green hydrogen? First of all, you should understand about the hydrogen. So hydrogen is, we can say, found in the universe as well as on the earth's surface in abundant manner, one of the single largest, let's say, element found on the earth, in the atmosphere also, right. It is also having a very high level of energy density. It is cleaner source of energy. However, it is very difficult to find hydrogen in a isolated manner because it is volatile and immediately forms compound with the other elements, right. So to isolate hydrogen, so that becomes the task here, important task, and to store also that becomes important task. Now hydrogen can be produced in a different manner, and on the basis of, let's say, source of energy used for the formation of this hydrogen, it is divided into different types. For example, there is green hydrogen, there is pink hydrogen, there is black or brown or sometimes called as grey hydrogen. There is also, we can say, blue hydrogen. Let us understand meaning of this. This can be asked in prelims examination. Green hydrogen means that hydrogen which is formed from the electrolysis process. Okay, but that for that electrolysis process, the energy that is supplied, that energy is from the renewable energy sources. That energy is from renewable energy sources like solar energy is there, wind energy there, right. So electricity produced from these renewable energy sources is used for electrolysis process, wherein we can say water is electrolysis, or we can say divided into hydrogen and oxygen molecule, hydrogen and oxygen molecules, and hydrogen, free hydrogen is achieved there, right. So this is green hydrogen. In the similar manner, pink hydrogen is also formed through electrolysis, but the source of energy here is nuclear energy. Remember this, here renewable energy, here nuclear energy. Now black, brown and grey, basically it talks about, we can say, fossil fuels, and largely we can say coal. Okay, so grey, brown, black, it talks about the coal resources. From coal, when the electricity is produced, and from that electricity that is used for electrolysis, for the water and hydrogen is produced, that is called as, we can say, grey hydrogen. And because of this process or burning of fossil fuel, basically the byproducts are pollutants. That's why it is not feasible to use. At the same time, blue hydrogen is also produced from fossil fuels. However, the byproducts like CO2 or carbon monoxide, CO, that is stored and therefore not allowed to go into the atmosphere. To some extent it is beneficial. Yes, what is happening? Okay, brightness, just a moment. ये ब्लर हो रहा है स्क्रीन. Yes, is it visible now? Okay, let us continue. Now, we have understood the different types of hydrogen and how these hydrogens are produced. So, green hydrogen is focused because the source of energy here used is renewable energy, and because of that byproducts are not pollutants, it is clean source of energy. Okay, whenever we are using that green hydrogen for further purpose, let us say for the energy source, for transportation, for railways, or if you are talking about, let us say, even for other industrial purpose like steel industry or chemical industry, we can use this hydrogen cells. Okay, so already the experiments have been done in Germany. Hydrogen cells based train have already run. Okay, so this is how we also in India need to focus on producing this clean source of energy. Now, why there is need of green hydrogen? Let us talk about need also. First and foremost, we are now let us say trying to reduce dependence on fossil fuels as they are polluting, Second thing, we need to understand that India is we can say developing country which is having huge demand for energy. We can say that energy hungry country, because let us say two aspects are involved here: increase in population or large population, as well as we can say industrial development, industrialization, urbanization. Because of this, the need, or we can say India is becoming energy hungry country. We know that at present India is the fourth largest country in terms of energy consumptions in the world after US, China, European Union, and by 2030 India is going to overcome European Union also. Okay, this is the situation. You should mention this whenever we are writing mains related questions or answer to those questions, right? The third aspect, we should understand that because of pollution that is created by fossil fuels, especially air pollution, so the premature deaths that are happening because of this, we have to avoid that also. So health aspect is also important here. So environment protection and mitigation and adaptation from the climate change and global warming that has already been taken place. Then to ensure the energy security and reduce the premature deaths from air pollution, we can talk about the need here in this manner. Then what are the challenges in production of green hydrogen? First thing we should talk about, let us say, challenges to store hydrogen in liquid form. Compress and store, because it is gas, we have to store in a large volume, and because of that we have to compress it, and for compressing it and storing we require low temperatures, as low temperatures as we can say minus 253 degrees Celsius, minus 253 degrees Celsius. Okay, and this becomes, we can say that the initial cost is very high for any kind of green hydrogen production plant. At the same time, we have to also understand that the renewable energy is not continuous, or we can say it is intermittent, be it solar energy or wind energy or hydropower energy. This is intermittent, not continuous source of energy. This is also challenge. At the same time, solar energy is not always viable outside the tropical let's say nature of country. So if it is located within the tropics, then fine. Outside tropics, again we can say that not much solar energy is received, right? So these are the challenges you can talk about. Now after understanding these challenges, at present which are the initiatives at international level? For example, Germany has already done the trial runs of railways powered by hydrogen cells. Railway powered by hydrogen cells. At the same time, you can give the example of Saudi Arabia is going to establish green hydrogen plant sourcing the energy from solar energy in its country. Okay, so Saudi Arabia, we know that it has huge hydrocarbon resources. Despite of such fossil fuels resources, this country is now trying to explore such green hydrogen production and move towards renewable energy or clean sources of energy. This shows that at international level already the efforts have progressed in this direction. In India, if you remember, in budget, Union Budget 2021, our finance minister announced a national mission, or we can say National Hydrogen Energy Mission. This was announced, National Hydrogen Energy Mission, National NHEM or NHM. Remember this can be asked in prelims examination. This energy mission, it talks about production of green hydrogen. And the beneficiary industries will be, or we can say sectors, transportation sector, steel industry, chemical industry, which consume almost half of the fossil fuels in India. So this is how India is promoting. At the same time, you can give the example of Indian Railways. Indian Railways announced pilot project on hydrogen cell based train that is to be run in Northern Railways sector. Okay, so in this manner there will be some trials done by the Indian Railways also. Fine. So you should remember what are the initiatives in India in this direction. Fine. So what kind of simple straightforward question can be asked? Remember this. These type of science and technology or energy security related aspects you should be aware about. Direct questions are asked, like what do you understand by green hydrogen? Then discuss its benefits and challenges involved in its production. Okay, instead of benefits they can ask, let's say, examine its need and the challenges involved in its production. In this manner the question can be asked. So this article is very important from GS3 paper. Any question? Yes. Now back at school, there is one editorial. It talks about, let's say, 1 week of reopening of schools in certain states. It is reviewing that situation and what further measures required to be taken, safety measures. Okay, so situation after 1 week of reopening of school, situation is good. There are very less number of infections or transmission of cases. The article in first part talks about the cases like case studies like Tamil Nadu or Kerala states. The proactive nature of actions by the Tamil Nadu government, whenever they have found increase in number of cases, they have looked into the tracing, contact tracing, and immediately isolation, and the treatment is being given. So in this manner we can understand that even after 1 week of reopening of school, So there are no substantial increase of number of cases or infections. This is good thing. Now, why do we need to continue the schooling in a physical manner or physical attendance? So we can understand some facts or data. We can mention here, recently many such surveys have been done by the Economist. In August month, one of the survey had talked about in rural areas, the children, around 8% children had access to online classes, and we can say that in terms of availability or access, or 8% of children had or continued schooling, online schooling, and around 37% children discontinued learning process completely. This is the situation we are facing, and the situation is not very much different even in the urban areas. Okay, so this is the problem for the online schooling, and we have witnessed the, let's say, break in the access to the education, and because of that the physical schooling or schooling in attendance in the school is should be continued. You can mention these facts. Then what are the major concerns? Major concerns, first is that spread of infections, in school, and second is that we can say threat to, or we can say risk to vulnerable individuals at home. When these children are returning home, they may carry the infections back at home, and therefore if suppose there is old age grandfather, grandmother, or suppose the even father, mother with some comorbidities are there, vulnerable to that infection and for severe COVID-19 disease. So these risks always remain here, the two important concerns. And for that purpose, what should be the safety measures that can be taken? First of all, smaller class sizes, then wider spaces between desks, and staggered breaks at school. We have witnessed this is being implemented, right? So for example, different classes are having different lunch breaks. There is no one single lunch break given to all the classes. So this is how the breaks are staggered. At the wider places spaces, almost around 2 benches are left between the students. Also they are wearing the mask along with teachers. Now vaccination of teachers and the school staff and eligible students and free testing for all, this can be done, right? So why we are saying that eligible student? Because one of the vaccine, Zydus Cadila vaccine, has been announced that can be given or safe to the 12 years to 18 years old children, right? So they can receive the vaccination also. Now WHO recommended for the age group of 6 to 14, so we can say elementary school level up to 7th standard or 8th standard. So for them we have to analyze the risk involved. Then local level factors, for example transmission rate or positivity rate should be considered before opening schools for this age group here, because we do not know what kind of impact that will happen on this age group, right? So already some of the health experts have said that there will not be, let's say, chances of severe COVID-19 disease among the children in this age group. However, we do not know long term impact also, and that's why we need to be careful. We need to be careful for this age group, and therefore analysis of risk involved should be done before reopening of school for these, and then local level factors, right. So all these can be undertaken, or safety measures can be undertaken, and then this schools can be continued in future also. There should not be any populist decision by the government. Suppose there is sudden increase in number of cases and there is increasing demand by the people, certain sections of society, let's say close the schools here. Now there should not be break in the education, or we can say schooling for these children. Whenever possible, there should be continuation of the schooling, and suppose the local level there is increase in positivity rate, then for certain time period, 1 week, 2 week, there can be closure of schools. Fine? Yes. Any question? Now, IR related developments, India, Russia review Afghanistan situation. So they conducted their first detailed and extensive review of the situation in Afghanistan, agreeing to coordinate their positions at United Nations as a delegation led by Russia's Security Council Secretary General visited India and met National Security Advisor in Delhi. Okay, so the talks between these two revolved around, let's say, need to hold Taliban to their promises thus far, the threat of terrorism from international terror groups inside Afghanistan, then flow of weapons, radicalization and increase in opium production and drug trafficking under new regime. So surely we need to understand what are the challenges. Terrorism, then we can say that the human rights violations, at the same time drug trafficking, drug productions or opium production, all these are going to be next challenges here. Now they also touch upon the humanitarian and migration problem in Afghanistan, as well as prospects for Russian-Indian joint efforts aimed at creating conditions for launching peaceful settlement process on the basis of intra-Afghan dialogue. So these are the common statements from time to time they are talking about like this. So remember the common areas of talks between India and Russia have follow up on India-Russia bilateral talks. Already we have talked about this, how to make notes for international relations, right. So there should be some bilateral relations like India-US, India-Russia, India-Australia, India-Japan, India-China, India-UK. So these important countries, there should be bilateral relations. In your book, keep certain number of pages, 8 to 10 pages for these bilateral relations. Then India and regional forum cooperation, India-ASEAN cooperation, India-Eurasian Union, India-EU cooperation, or you can also talk about, let's say, East Asia Summit, so or SAARC cooperation with the neighboring countries or Gulf countries, so Gulf GCC is there, or SCO is there. In this manner you should prepare the notes. Question will be directly either in terms of India and neighbor, second India and some bilateral relations with these important countries, third India and regional forum, and fourth UNSC reforms or reforms at the multilateral institutions. Okay, so these are the important four, or fifth you can talk about international trade regime. So what are the reforms required in the trade regime, right? So remember these 5 areas, prepare notes accordingly here. Now in the same manner, India, Australia, so we are going to hold such first inaugural talks, 2+2 meetings with Australia now. Already we have 2+2 talks with countries like US, Japan, and now we are going to hold such talks with the Australia also. Okay, and the areas that the talks will cover between foreign minister, economic issues, cyber security, climate change, critical technology, supply chains. At the same time, the defense ministries will talk about the defense cooperation between these two countries, right. At the same time, we are expecting that the bilateral free trade agreement negotiations, we are expecting there will be further fillip in the negotiations for this FTA free trade agreement between India and Australia. At present, up till now, the negotiations have not been much fruitful. Okay. So whenever these talks will happen, again we will have follow up for this. Yes. Late running trains to cost railways dear. So there was one particular case before Supreme Court, and the case was related to, actually one of the traveler was traveling to Jammu and Kashmir. So the train was supposed to reach Jammu on time, and from there onwards he had flight from Jammu to Srinagar. In Srinagar he had the bookings of the boats at Dal Lake. Okay, so he was visiting for holiday purpose, and because the train reached late in Jammu, all other plans are cancelled, and he suffered some loss as well as mental agony, and he filed the case in the consumer court. Now district consumer forum, let's say, charged the Indian Railways for certain monetary we can say compensation. Now Indian Railways filed the let's say appeal in the higher we can say court, compensation court, consumer court, sorry, and the consumer courts also gave the same verdict here. Now the Indian Railways argued in the Supreme Court. Okay, and Supreme Court also said that now you should compensate, because the kind of monetary loss as well as the mental agony that the people are facing because of this, because they may have the continued journey after that destination, and because of that there may be loss. At the same time, the Supreme Court is also saying that these are days of competition and accountability, as it is public sector enterprise. So it requires to have some accountability. It is going to use, let's say, taxpayers' money, right? Then if the public transportation has to survive and compete with private players, they have to improve the system and their working culture. This is how we need to understand. The Supreme Court has also highlighted the problems in public sector enterprises like Indian Railways. If Indian Railways remains inefficient, in future suppose there is privatization of railways, and if private players start to run the railways in an efficient manner, Indian Railways or public sector will completely close down. Okay, so this is how already the Supreme Court has to some extent gave the warning here, and need to compensate whenever the trains are going to be late here, right? Like similar kind of, let's say, private sector airlines, they provide some compensation, right, for delay in the let's say flights. So they give some kind of compensation there. So in the same manner, now the public sector is supposed to give the compensation here. Now, prelims related development. Amid protest, center hikes MSP for rabi crops. Minimum support price. Okay, so for rabi crops, there are 6 rabi crops for which the central government gives this MSP. What is MSP, or minimum support price? It is the price at which the government buys, or let's say assure the farmers that it will buy the agriculture crops at that minimum level. Okay, if the farmers are not able to sell that produce in the market. Okay, so this is basically the rate at which the government purchases crops from the farmers, right? So this is some kind of assurance. Why MSP was brought? 2 objectives. One is it provides assurance to the farmers. It is kind of insurance, we can say that. Whenever the market rates or prices falls below certain level, then there is not going to provide returns to the farmers. So the agriculture does not remain, we can say, the lucrative business or economic activity for the farmers. First thing. Second thing is that the food grain production in the country is very important for the food security. For ensuring food security and the supply of food grains for the PDS program, the government needs to have or buy these food grains from the farmers. So we know about the public procurement system and PDS system, right? So these 2 objectives are there. Now already the farmers are protesting because of farm bills, and there was recent, let's say, a kind of disruptions in the peaceful protest in Karnal district, right? So because of that, there is some kind of, let's say, questions being raised on the administration or even the government here. And amid this protest, now the government is trying to appease the farmers by increasing the MSP. How much amount for wheat? 2015 rupees per quintal, 2% hike from the earlier year. The hike is more for oilseeds and pulses like mustard, safflower or masoor dal. So this hike is up to 8%. Okay, to encourage the crop diversification. Crop diversification, this is good thing, right? So the decision is taken by the Committee on Economic Affairs here. Final decision, government. Now basics about MSP, we understand that this is the minimum price at which government purchases crops from the farmers. The government of India sets MSP twice a year, before Kharif season and before Rabi season. Before Kharif season and before Rabi season. And it is for 23 crops, 13 Kharif crops, 6 Rabi crops and 4 commercial crops. Okay, so commercial crops like sugarcane is there, jute is there or cotton is there, right? Then Commission for Agriculture Cost and Prices, CACP, decides the minimum price, support price and recommend it to the government. So government is not taking independent decision, rather it takes decision on the recommendation of CACP. Okay, and it is announced by Department of Agriculture and Cooperation. Fine. So decision is taken by the Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs on the recommendation of CACP, and it is announced by the Department of Agriculture and Cooperation under Ministry of Agriculture. In this manner, you should remember how this MSP is announced. Now, so what should be answer to this question then? Yes. Yes. So the statements are talking about MSP. We have to find the correct statement. Yes, it is the minimum price at which the government purchases crops from the farmers. This is correct. It is decided by the government on the recommendation of Indian Council of Agriculture Research. No, this is incorrect. It is decided on the recommendation of CACP, Commission on Agriculture Cost and Prices. This is already asked by UPSC in previous year. If you have a look at previous year MCQs, UPSC has asked direct question on the recommendation of which of the following body MSP is decided. So CACP is the answer there, right? So yes, one only A is the correct answer. Fine. Yes. So these were important articles. Any question?
So, central government will know about the grains are going to be high price in the open market. Then already the government having the different types of stores like PDS in every ward. Over the land of India, every ward have a certain PSD store. Why not the government is not able to distribute directly high price food grains to the people?
Why? What is your last statement?
Why not the government is not taking the decision to distribute the high price food grains, the stall and some of the high rate food grains from directly farmers to people by eliminating the middle person of the market?
Okay, middle persons. Yes, see, try to understand. First thing is that already the public procurement program is there. Buffer stocks are maintained by the FCI, Food Corporation of India, right? So through that public procurement program, it is some kind of assurance. Try to understand why farmers grow a particular crop. There needs to be some assurance, incentives that the government is going to buy those food grains at certain predetermined cost. This provides incentive to the farmer. That's why farmers are growing this. Second thing is that suppose the market prices are less than MSP, the farmer will go to the government and sell that food grains to the government, right? So this is the we can say approach. But in recent times, especially after we can say that green revolution, after 5-10 years of green revolution, so food grain production increased in a substantial amount, and because of that what happened is at present the buffer stocks are overflowing, FCI godowns are overflowing, wastage, and we can say that rotting of all these food grains is large, and there are some, let's say, recommendations by the experts committee. For example, Shanta Kumar committee 2014 gave recommendation for overhauling of this PDS system, FCI reforms, warehousing reforms, public procurement reforms. Everything is comprehensively covered by that committee, Shanta Kumar committee, remember this. Okay, so it has asked to remove the dependence on FCI godowns. Okay, so basically the buffer stock is exceeding its limits, and the government is from time to time bringing these food grains procured from the farmers into the market, selling in the market these food grains, even exporting these food grains. Do you know about this? Okay, so the government is not tasked to do this. This is not the objective of public procurement program, right? So only the optimum amount of food grains needs to be stored in the, let's say, buffer stock, and that should be provided through PDS. This is very important. What problem is happening is market prices fluctuates. That's why the government cannot buy from the market and sell or give to the people at in the PDS shop these food grains. Try to understand this. Okay, market prices fluctuates, and therefore the government is not able to directly buy from the market.
Sir, even the purchase also market up and down is going to be common, sir. But the basic prices it will not be able to change from the farmer.
Basic prices means?
If the dal is in open market 90 rupees, sir. But whatever the market value, whatever the farmer price is going to be nearly 50 to 60 rupees on. It will not be changeable. Only the upper 50 and 60 it will be able to change.
Yes.
But compared to previous rice, it is a 1/5% only we are going to be distributing the dal.
Yes.
Some of the Gurukulas and some of the national schools are going to be continuously distributing the dal and different types of food grain. Why not the same procedure is not able to take to the normal people?
Yes. So you are saying that the food grains directly should be from farmers, it should go to the PDS shop. You are saying?
Yes, sir.
Yes, that can happen, and basically what we are doing at present is the food grain production is not uniform. Try to understand this. Most of the food grain production, rice, wheat, that happens in some of the states, and these food grains needs to be transported after buying those. Okay, so like for example Punjab, Haryana, Western UP and some of the southern states like Tamil Nadu. Okay, so they only have high level of production of these food grains, staple food we call it, cereals, right? So what happens is the government needs to procure from the farmers on large scale, and that needs to be transported to other states for PDS distribution. This is the problem actually. What you are saying that can be implemented in these states, these 4 states. But what about other states where the production is not on that large scale?
Yes, sir. One time I saw that one time has been distributed, sir. More than 5 food grains has been distributed more than 3 months, sir. After that 3 months, some of the local governments and local politics of the market persons has been collapsed in that system, sir. Due to that market price has been suddenly dropped out, sir, due to the distribution of previous stores.
Yes. So that is also problem, and try to understand at present farmers are not selling that to the government at the MSP largely outside these 4 states. They are selling their food grains in the market only because they get more price as compared to this MSP. Try to understand this. Only the large scale production happens in Punjab, Haryana, Western UP. There the produce is sold to the government, we can say, and even state governments are giving some higher MSP than the central government in addition to that amount. So basically it acts as a insurance, or we can say any kind of, suppose in future the market prices falls below that MSP. This is very important for the farmers. Fine. Okay then, so let us stop. We'll meet tomorrow at the same time. Thank you.
Contact us to avail the combo offer of General Studies and Public Administration optional with 20% discount.